Okay, let's just be honest for a second. There is a word in our vocabulary that has a serious branding problem. I mean, a really serious one.
Mm-hmm.
It's technically a virtue, right? It's something we teach our toddlers to say basically before they can even walk. And yet, as adults, I think most of us secretly hate it.
Where you hate the way it's used against you.
Yes, exactly. Or at least the way it's used.
You're talking about forgiveness.
I am 100% talking about forgiveness because, let's look at the cultural context here. In the movies or, I don't know, in HR seminars or even just casual advice from friends, forgiveness is usually framed as this passive thing.
Right. It's resignation.
It's resignation. It's letting it go. It's moving on. It's being the bigger person.
Which is code for swallow your pain and stop making things awkward for everybody else.
Exactly. You just nailed it. Yeah. It's about restoring social comfort. It's about minimizing the awkwardness.
It becomes a tool for conflict avoidance, and it gets dressed up as a virtue. That's really the modern narrative.
It really is.
We treat forgiveness as this mechanism to just return to the status quo as quickly as possible. It's a transaction. I say sorry, you say it's okay, and boom, the social gears start turning again.
Right, it's a social lubricant. But here's the problem, and this is why I was so gripped by the source material we're diving into today. That version of forgiveness feels incredibly weak.
It does. It feels like losing.
It feels like losing. If someone hurts you, and you forgive them in that modern sense, it feels like you're basically saying, hey, no big deal, you can hurt me. And nobody, absolutely nobody, wants to be a doormat.
And that instinct that you feel, that hesitation, it's completely valid.
Right.
Because the version of forgiveness that pop culture is selling is weak. It is about minimizing damage.
Yeah.
But the source material for today's deep dive, it's arguing something just radically different. We're looking at a breakdown of a teaching by Pastor Carl Henneny Swanback. It's titled Slecha, The Divine Strength of Biblical Forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And his whole premise is that we have completely, fundamentally misunderstood the architecture of the concept.
Architecture is the perfect word because this isn't some, fluff piece about just being nice. This deep dive is going to get technical. Mm-hmm. We're going to be looking at linguistics, a little bit of archaeology, and some really heavy theology. The argument here is that biblical forgiveness, what the Hebrew calls sliklisha, isn't a feeling. It's not an emotion you just wait around for. It is an act of immense divine strength that actually changes reality.
It's covenantal. That's the key word I think we need to keep in our minds today. Modern forgiveness is emotional. Biblical forgiveness is covenantal.
What does that mean exactly, covenantal?
It means it's based on a promise, a binding agreement. It's not based on how you feel that day. It's costly, it's layered, and as we're going to see, it's actually... well, it's terrifying.
Terrifying. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one because I usually associate forgiveness with relief, not, terror.
And we will definitely get there. But there's a paradox deep in the text that suggests that true, real forgiveness actually creates fear. Not abuse, not the terror of punishment, but a very specific kind of trembling fear. Awe, maybe.
I am very intrigued. So our mission today, for you listening, is to basically dismantle that I'm sorry reflex and see what's actually under the hood.
Yeah, let's wipe the engine.
We're going to look at the 3 distinct buckets of forgiveness because apparently our English language is just very, very lazy when it comes to this topic.
It collapses everything into one word.
It really does. And then we're going to tackle the section that I have to admit, it made me sweat a little bit when I was reading it.
Yeah.
The hard truth about political enemies.
Which feels more relevant right now than probably ever before.
Absolutely. It's unavoidable. But let's start at the bedrock. Let's start with the foundation. Let's talk about this word that the source centers on, slecha.
Slecha. That's in Hebrew. It's the noun for forgiveness. Now, here's the thing. If you open up an English Bible and you do a search for the word forgive or forgiveness, you'll see it hundreds and hundreds of times.
Right. It feels like it's everywhere. The bread and butter of the whole story.
It seems common. Exactly. It seems like the core function.
Yeah.
In English, yes. But here is the fascinating thing the source points out, and it's a detail that really truly changes how you view the entire concept. In the Hebrew Bible, what Christians call the Old Testament, the specific noun form slecha, meaning forgiveness, with a capital F. It appears only 3 times.
Wait, hold on. Say that
3.
3 times in the entire Old Testament. That seems, I mean, that's impossibly low. We're talking about a book that is fundamentally about God redeeming people who mess up over and over and over.
Constantly.
How can the word for forgiveness only show up 3 times?
It's shocking, isn't it? It just feels wrong. You'd expect it on every single page. But the scarcity is the point.
Okay.
The source lists them out for us. It's Psalm 130, verse 4. It's Daniel 9, verse 9. And it's Nehemiah 9, verse 17. That's it.
That's the whole list.
That's the entire list. And the argument that Swanback makes from this is that this incredible rarity tells us that Sleicha isn't just describing a common action. It's not like walking or talking. It isn't just something that happens. It describes who God is.
So it's not just a verb. It's not just something he does. It's a noun that functions as an attribute. It's part of his character description.
Exactly. Think about the difference between, say, running and being a runner. I can run to catch a bus, but that doesn't make me an athlete.
Right. Good point.
Sleicha implies that this quality is intrinsic to the very nature of God. And here is the crucial distinction the source draws from that. In the Hebrew mindset, Sleicha is not something that humans can just generate on our own.
Wow.
Strictly speaking, Sleicha originates entirely with God.
Okay, that puts a huge wrench in the whole forgive and forget advice we give each other.
It really does.
If Sleicha is a divine attribute, then when I'm angry at my neighbor for, backing into my mailbox and I try to forgive him, what I'm actually trying to do is something that isn't natural to my species.
You're trying to channel a divine power source through a human circuit. And that's why it feels so hard.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's why it feels weak to our flesh, because our flesh wants justice. Our flesh wants revenge. Revenge is a very human impulse. Sleicha is divine. When we engage in it, we are stepping out of our biological imperative and stepping into God's character.
So it's not just about being polite. It's not social grace. It's spiritual mimicry. You're trying to imitate something from another dimension, almost.
That's a great way to put it. It's an imitation of the divine. And the source actually throws some shade here. Or maybe it's just a challenge, asking us to really reflect on our attitude toward this.
What's the challenge?
Well, it poses 2 questions. First, do we treat forgiveness as permission to sin? And second, when we are forgiven, is our reaction gratitude or is it entitlement?
That entitlement piece is huge. I think, especially in our modern Western culture, we've sort of democratized forgiveness to the point where we demand it. If I apologize, you are now obligated to forgive me. And if you don't, then you are the bad guy. You're the one with the problem.
Oh, totally. The script is, I say sorry, you say it's fine. And if you don't say it's fine, then you're holding a grudge and you're toxic. And now I'm the victim of your unforgiveness.
Right. The tables get turned.
Precisely. We've weaponized the expectation of forgiveness.
Yeah.
But Sleicha, this rare, divine, weighty attribute, suggests that forgiveness is a miracle. It's not a right.
A miracle.
When God grants Sleicha in those 3 passages, it is presented as a sovereign act of mercy. It isn't some bureaucratic stamping of a form because the sinner finally filed the right paperwork.
That makes me rethink the last time I apologized for something. Was I actually repenting, or was I just, putting a coin in the vending machine expecting the forgiveness bar to drop down?
It's a great question to ask. And conversely, when we're the ones who've been hurt, are we realizing that by forgiving, we aren't just letting it go, we are actively bringing a piece of heaven into a very broken, very earthly situation?
Which is a perfect transition because we have to get into the mechanics of how this actually works. The source argues that our single English word forgiveness is doing way, way too much heavy lifting.
It is.
It's like using the word fix for, taping a ripped piece of paper and for completely rebuilding a car engine. They are fundamentally different processes.
English is often a collapsing language.
Yeah.
We take these very nuanced, layered concepts and we just smash them into one utility word.
Yeah.
And so the source material engages in what I like to call the archaeology of words. It digs up 3 specific Hebrew concepts, 3 buckets that we just lump together as forgiveness. And if you don't understand the difference between these buckets, you're going to be very confused about what you're actually asking for or what you're trying to give.
Okay, lay them out for us. What are the 3 buckets?
They are Mechila, Kapara, and then the big one, Sleicha.
Okay, let's take these one by one because this was the part of the notes where I really had my aha moment. It just clicked.
Let's do.
Start with Mechila.
All right. Mechila. This is a concept that's very heavily developed in rabbinic tradition. You don't see this specific word used as a noun in the Old Testament in quite the same way, but the concept is definitely there, especially in the New Testament. Mechila basically means wiping away or maybe a better translation, a waiver of a claim.
A waiver.
The best way to think about this is the ledger.
The ledger. Okay, so this is accounting. We're talking spreadsheets and balance sheets.
Pure accounting. This is the financial metaphor for sin. And you see it everywhere once you look for it. Think about the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors.
Debts. Not forgive us our bad actions or our mistakes. Debts.
Exactly. Why debts? Because Mechila views sin as a transactional deficit. You stole something, or you broke something, or you wasted my time. You owe me. There's an imbalance in the universe that needs to be corrected.
Okay, so let's use a really concrete real-world example. Let's say I borrow your car and I'm texting while driving like an idiot and I smash it into a tree. I now owe you a new car. That is a literal, tangible debt. Let's say it's $30,000.
Right. In any normal justice system, you pay me back. You are legally obligated to make me whole. Macula is me looking at that debt, at that legal right I have to collect 30 grand from you, and saying, I waive this right. You don't have to pay.
Wow. That's a massive gift.
It's a huge gift. It's the cancellation of the claim. This connects directly to that parable of the unforgiving servant in Matthew 18.
The one where the king forgives an insane amount of money.
An amount that was basically unpayable. Millions and millions of dollars in today's money. The king cancels it. That is macula. It's a legal outcome. It clears the record.
You know, the source connects this to Paul's definition of love in 1 Corinthians 13.
Yes.
Love keeps no record of wrongs. I've heard that verse at 1,000 weddings, and it always sounds so poetic and sweet. But in this context, it's not poetic, it's forensic.
That's a great word for it. It's a legal term. Keeping no record means I'm not writing it in the ledger. It means I can't sue you for it later.
So if you grant me Mechila for the car, you can't bring it up 6 months later and say, hey, remember that $30,000 you owe me?
Nope. The debt is gone. The file is closed. The visual here is blotting out a document. Acts 3.19 talks about sins being blotted out, erased from the page.
Okay, so that sounds like forgiveness to me. That sounds pretty complete. If the debt is gone, we're good, all right? What more is there?
Well, this is where the nuance really kicks in. And this is where the source argues that Mechila, on its own, isn't enough.
How so?
Because go back to your car example. I've told you that you don't have to pay me the $30,000. The ledger is clear.
The car is still smashed.
The car is still smashed.
And I'm walking to work now. My life is still impacted.
Exactly. The debt is gone, but the consequence remains. The damage is real. Mechila handles the legal claim, but it doesn't fix the broken reality. And that brings us to bucket number 2.
Which is kapara.
Kapara.
That sounds a lot like Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement.
It's the exact same root. It comes from the Hebrew word kapare, which means to cover. This is atonement.
Okay, atonement is another one of those words that I think we use a lot in church, but maybe we don't actually know what it means practically.
I agree.
How is covering different from canceling the debt?
So think of kapara as shielding. Mechila deals with the legal obligation. Kapara deals with the existential impact, the damage.
Okay.
The source argues that kapara is often reduced in Christian circles to just, what Christ did on the cross. And while that is absolutely the ultimate theological fulfillment of it, the concept itself represents a necessary cleansing or a covering of the nakedness and shame that sin causes.
So let's stick with the car analogy. If Mechila is you saying you don't have to pay, what is kapar in that situation?
Kapar is dealing with the fact that I am now carless. It's the covering of the loss. It's the absorption of the consequence so that the relationship can somehow survive the damage.
So it's about the lingering effects.
Yes. In the Old Testament sacrificial system, this was literal. The animal died to cover the sin of the person. The animal took on the consequence. It absorbs the blow.
So it's shielding the sinner from the raw fallout of what they did. It's like a protective layer.
Exactly. It's a protective layer. If I don't have some form of kapara in our car crash situation, then every single time I see you, I'm reminded of my smashed car. I'm exposed to the pain of it over and over. Kapara covers that offense so we can move forward.
Okay, I think I'm getting this. So we have the ledger cleared, which is Mechila, and we have the consequences covered, which is kapara.
Right.
But the source says there's a third bucket, a final layer, and this is the deepest one. This is slicha.
This is the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Slicha. And unlike Mechila, which is legal and transactional, or kapara, which is about consequences and covering, slicha is purely emotional and relational.
This is where the source brings in a Jewish theologian named Malbim. And he has this concept of total absolution that, honestly, it sounds like science fiction when you first read it.
Malbim is fascinating. He looks at Slicha and says, it's not just wiping the debt clean, and it's not just covering over the mess. He suggests that Slicha treats the sin as if it never occurred.
As if it never occurred. See, that's where I get skeptical. My brain just rebels against that.
Of course.
I can cancel a debt. I can even, find a way to deal with the loss, but I can't delete my memory. I can't pretend it didn't happen. Isn't that just a form of denial?
To the human mind, yes. It looks like delusion. It feels impossible. But remember what we said at the beginning.
That Slicha is a divine attribute.
It's not human.
Mm-hmm.
When God engages in Slicha, he isn't suffering from amnesia. It's not that he forgets. He is making a conscious, divine choice to relate to you through a timeline where that sin no longer defines you or the relationship.
That's heavy. To choose to see me without that stain.
It's a refusal to let the past wound define the future of the relationship. Think about it this way. You can grant someone Megillah, or even financially, but never want to speak to them again.
Oh, absolutely. I forgive you, but get out of my life.
Right. Or you can have kapara, that the issue is covered, we won't talk about it. But the warmth is just gone. The trust is broken. Sleech is the piece that says, we are close again. The intimacy is restored.
That's the missing piece for so many of us, isn't it? We get the legal forgiveness, but we still feel that distance. We're really waiting for Slicha.
And often we are willing to give Megillah, but we actively withhold Slicha. We say, I won't punish you, but I will punish our relationship by withdrawing my heart.
Yeah.
And the source argues that true, complete biblical forgiveness involves all three layers. It is canceling the debt, covering the consequence, and miraculously restoring the flow of the relationship.
So if I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about a specific person in my life, maybe a parent or an ex or a former business partner, I need to ask myself, which bucket am I stuck in? Have I canceled the debt but kept the wall up?
Exactly. It's a diagnostic tool. And to help with that, the source dives into the etymology of Slicha even further. There is a section called the sprinkling, which I admit sounds a bit odd.
Sounds like a baking term.
It does. But the linguistic history here is wild.
This connects back to Akkadian, right, which is a very, very ancient language.
Super ancient. Scholars have found a link between the Hebrew root salak, which is the verb form of Slicha, and the Akkadian root salachu. And salachu means to sprinkle.
To sprinkle, like with water. Or salt.
Like ritual purification.
Yeah.
In the ancient Near East, if something was ritually unclean or stained, you didn't just throw it away. You would sprinkle it with water, or sometimes blood, to cleanse the stain.
So forgiveness, baked right into its linguistic DNA, is a cleaning process.
Yes. And this directly counters that denial argument you raised just a minute ago.
How so?
Well, if I am sprinkling a stain, I'm fully acknowledging that the stain exists. I see the dirt. I'm not pretending it's not there. Slicha doesn't pretend the offense didn't happen. It actively treats the stain so it no longer corrupts the object.
That is such a powerful visual, because forgive and forget implies I'm just closing my eyes and wishing it away. Sprinkling implies I'm doing work. I'm applying a solvent. I'm engaged in the cleanup.
Exactly. And what happens if you don't apply the solvent? What happens if you just leave the stain there to set?
It gets worse. It ruins the garment.
It does. And the source quotes that famous saying here, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
I've heard that a million times, but connect it to the stain for me.
Well, the stain of bitterness isn't on the other person. They might be off living their best life, not thinking about you at all. The stain is on your heart. It's on your mind. If you don't engage in Slicha, in that sprinkling process, you are the one walking around wearing the soiled garment. You are the one drinking the poison every single day.
So Slicha is actually a form of self-preservation. It's not for them. It's for me.
It's spiritual hygiene. The application question the source asks is this. What would it look like for God to sprinkle a specific wound in your life? It's not asking God to give you amnesia, to erase the memory. It's asking him to detoxify it, to wash it so that when you touch that memory, it doesn't burn you anymore.
I love that phrasing.
Right.
Detoxifying the memory. That feels achievable. But now we have to turn a corner, because everything we've said so far sounds lovely. It sounds healing and positive.
It does.
But there's a verse in the source material that completely threw me for a loop. It just stopped me in my tracks.
I think I know which one you mean. Psalm 130, verse 4.
Yes. But with you, there is forgiveness, Haslicha, that you may be feared.
It hits the brakes, doesn't it?
It makes no sense. It feels like a typo. Usually, we fear judgment, we fear punishment, we fear the guy holding the debt over our heads. If you forgive me, if you wipe the slate clean, I shouldn't fear you, I should high-five you, I should relax. Why on earth does forgiveness create fear?
This is the paradox of Slicha. It's one of the deepest parts of this teaching. And to understand it, we have to completely redefine what the Bible means by fear in this context. This isn't terror.
Okay.
It's not the fear of an abusive spouse who might snap at any moment. It's not flinching when someone raises their voice.
So what is it?
It's reverence born of shock. It's the awe-filled realization of the true cost of what just happened. The source argues that true godly forgiveness leads to careful walking, not casualness.
Careful walking. Unpack that for me.
Evan, you work for a company. And you make a huge mistake, a really bad one, a mistake that cost the firm $1 million.
Okay, I'm fired.
Yeah, you should be. You walk into the CEO's office, you've got your resignation letter ready, you know you deserve to be fired, and instead the CEO looks at you and says, I'm going to personally cover the loss from my own account. You still have your job, go back to work.
Wow, okay.
Do you walk out of that office whistling? Do you skip down the hall thinking, awesome, man, I can do whatever I want around here?
No way, I'd be shaking.
You walk out trembling. You walk out with this profound sense of loyalty and a terrifying realization of what that mercy cost him. You are going to be the most careful, diligent, grateful employee that company has ever seen from that day forward.
That's the fear. It's the weight of the grace.
It's the weight of the grace. That's it, exactly. It's what the source calls the holy memory of regret.
The holy memory of regret.
It's that gut-wrenching feeling of having let someone down who loved you enough to absorb the cost of your failure. That feeling creates a boundary in your soul. It ensures that grace doesn't become cheap.
Cheap grace. That's Dietrich Bonhoeffer's term, isn't it?
It is. Bonhoeffer talked about cheap grace being forgiveness without repentance, baptism without church discipline, communion without confession. It's the idea that forgiveness is just an automatic system, a cosmic get-out-of-jail-free card.
Right.
But Slicha, precisely because it is so rare, because it is divine, because it is so costly, it should produce fear and trembling.
Work out your salvation with fear and trembling. That verse just lit up for me in a new way.
That's the connection. If you don't feel a little bit of that trembling when you realize you've been forgiven, you might not have actually grasped the magnitude of the debt that was mechaled, or the true cost of the kapara.
You know, this actually solves a big problem for me. Because one of the reasons I think people, myself included, resist forgiving others is the fear of enabling bad behavior.
Absolutely. It's the number one objection to forgiveness.
We think, if I forgive him, he'll just do it again. He won't learn his lesson. I'm letting him off the hook.
If I let him off the hook, I'm basically participating in his sin. I'm co-signing the bad behavior.
Yes. But this text is saying that true forgiveness, if it's received correctly, actually changes behavior better than punishment does. Punishment makes you sneaky. This kind of forgiveness makes you loyal.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
That's the divine model. But, and this is a huge but, that the source spends a lot of time on.
Okay.
What if the other person doesn't have that reaction? What if you offer them grace and they don't tremble? What if they just smirk and see it as a sign of weakness?
What if they're just a toxic person who sees your mercy as an opportunity to hurt you again?
Yeah, what then? Do we just keep offering our knack?
I hope not.
No. And this is where the source provides the rules of engagement. It is very, very explicit on this point. Forgiveness does not equal enabling.
Can you say that again for the people in the back?
Forgiveness does not equal enabling. The source states, quote, forgiveness does not mean enabling destruction, whether that is the internal destruction of your own soul by holding a grudge, or the external destruction caused by someone else's unrepentant behavior.
Okay, so how do we balance total absolution with, I'm not going to let you hurt me or my family again? Where's the line?
We have to draw a sharp distinction between forgiveness and reconciliation.
Okay.
Forgiveness, especially the Mechila part, canceling the debt, is one way. You can do that on your own. You can release the debt in your heart. You can decide not to seek revenge. You can let go of the bitterness that is between you and God.
So I can do that even if they never say they're sorry?
You can. But reconciliation, restoring the relationship, getting back to that deep intimacy of Slicha, that is two-way. That requires change. That requires safety.
The source outlines a kind of escalation ladder here, based on Matthew 18 and some of Paul's teachings. It's basically a troubleshooting guide for broken relationships.
It is, and it's very practical. Step 1, confront with love. You have to actually go to the person and say, what's wrong? You can't just seethe in silence.
Hey, when you did this, it hurt me.
Step 2, call to change. It's not just venting your feelings. It's asking for a specific, observable turnaround in behavior.
Right.
Step 3, if they don't listen, you escalate. You bring in witnesses. Objective, wise, third-party truth tellers who can confirm the reality of the situation.
And if that doesn't work, what's it allowed?
Step 4.
If there's no repentance, no transformation. Separation.
Separation. So the Bible actually allows for cutting ties. I think a lot of people feel like that's the ultimate sin, to cut someone off. It not only allows it, it commands it in certain situations. Paul says in 1 Corinthians to purge the evil person from among you. He says if a person who claims to be a believer is sexually immoral or greedy or an idolater or abusive or a drunkard or a swindler, you are to not even eat with such a person.
Wow. So you can forgive them, you can pray for them from a distance, you can wish them well, you can release the debt in your own heart, but you don't invite them to Thanksgiving dinner.
Precisely. You grant Makila, so you don't drink the poison of bitterness, but you withhold fellowship because they are unsafe. You don't offer the deep intimacy of Sleisha to someone who is unrepentant, because that would be, in Jesus' words, casting your pearls before swine. They'll just trample them.
That is such a freeing distinction. I feel like that could unlock a lot of people who are stuck right now. You can have a clean heart and a locked door at the same time.
A clean heart and a locked door. That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
But before we get too comfortable with locking doors, there is a very sharp warning in the source. And it's about the order of operations.
The altar passage, Matthew chapter 5.
Right. Jesus says, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there, remember that your brother has something against you.
Leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift.
Note the priority. It's so clear. Jesus says, I don't want your worship song. I don't want your tithe. I don't want your prayer if you are actively at war with your brother or sister.
He puts human reconciliation first.
He says reconciliation between people precedes reconciliation with God.
I feel so backwards. I always thought it was the other way around. I'll get right with God, and then He'll give me the strength to go deal with difficult people.
And Jesus just completely flips it. He implies that your horizontal relationships are the diagnostic test for your vertical relationship. If the horizontal is broken and you're not trying to fix it, the vertical signal is jammed.
The source notes that in the early church, they took this incredibly literally.
They did.
Yeah.
You couldn't take communion, which is the ultimate meal of forgiveness, if you hadn't made peace with the person sitting next to you in the room. It was a prerequisite.
The source uses really strong language here. It says that worship offered while you're holding a grudge is empty, if not rebellion.
Rebellion. That's such a strong word. But think about it for a second. You are standing there in worship, asking God for Sleisha, for this rare, costly, divine mercy, while you are simultaneously refusing to even offer the first step of it to your neighbor.
You're acting like the unforgiving servant in the parable.
Exactly. You're trying to receive a divine attribute that you refuse to embody. It breaks the entire circuit.
So the self-reflection question here, and this is one that might make you want to pull the car over for a second, is who might God be waiting for you to reconcile with before He accepts your prayers?
It's a haunting question. It suggests that our spiritual ceiling is effectively capped by our relational bitterness.
And speaking of relational bitterness, we have to go there. We have to talk about the elephant that's been in the room for the last decade. The source dedicates a significant section to forgiveness in a divisive political age.
We couldn't do this deep dive without touching this. Because right now, for so many of us, the person we struggle to forgive the most isn't a spouse or a boss. It's them, the other side, the political enemy.
The context is it's all around us. We live in an incredibly polarized world. But the source frames the problem in a really interesting way. It says that political identity is replacing kingdom identity.
That is the core diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a brilliant one. We have shifted from seeing people as wrong on the issues to seeing them as fundamentally bad people, as enemies.
Right.
And once someone is labeled an enemy, all the rules change. You don't have to listen to an enemy. You don't have to be kind to an enemy. You certainly don't have to forgive an enemy. You have to defeat them.
And we justify our anger, right? We justify it because we feel like the stakes are existential. They are destroying the country. They are hurting the vulnerable. They are evil. It's not just a disagreement about tax policy. It's a moral war.
And that is exactly where the source material steps in with a hard stop. A big red line. It says that Scripture never, not once, permits hatred in the name of righteousness.
Never. Even if the other side is actually promoting things that are evil.
Even then, Look at the ultimate example. Christ on the cross. He is being executed by a corrupt religious establishment and an unjust, oppressive pagan empire.
As bad as it gets.
As bad as it gets. And what does he say? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
He grants silicha, or at least opens the door for it, to his own executioners.
He creates the pathway for it.
Yeah.
And the source goes right to Matthew 6, verses 14 and 15. If you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. It's a conditional statement. It doesn't have an asterisk at the bottom that says, unless they voted for the other guy.
But hold on. Let me play devil's advocate here, because I can hear the listeners screaming at their phone right now.
Go for it.
You don't understand. The policies they support are actually hurting real people. If I forgive them, aren't I just endorsing their bad ideas? Aren't I failing to stand up for truth and justice?
That is the discernment trap that the source talks about. It's a very subtle but deadly trap.
The discernment trap.
We confuse discerning error with justifying bitterness. We tell ourselves, I'm not bitter, I'm discerning, I'm not hateful, I'm being righteously angry, I'm a prophet, not a jerk.
So how do we tell the difference? Because sometimes anger is justified, right?
The difference is dehumanization. You can and should fight a bad policy with every ounce of your strength. You can vote, you can campaign, you can debate, you can protest. But the moment you dehumanize the person holding the opposing view, the moment you wish them ill, or celebrate their misfortune, or view them as fundamentally unworthy of redemption, you have stepped out of the kingdom of God and into a different kingdom entirely.
Because Christ died for them too.
That's the kicker. That's the hard truth. That person holding the protest sign you despise. That politician you mock on social media, Jesus died for them. God loves them with a radical, scandalous love. If you hate what God loves, you are the one who is out of alignment, no matter how correct your policy position is.
That is a bitter pill to swallow. It means I can be 100% right about the tax code or right about social issues, but be 100% wrong about the soul.
And which one matters more in the end? The source poses this hypothetical scenario that I think is just brilliant and convicting. It asks the reader, if Yeshua, Jesus, sat down at your dinner table tonight, would he sound exactly like your political party? Or would your political party sound like the enemy to him?
Wow, that's a tough question.
We all want Jesus to wear our campaign button. We want him to endorse our platform and hate the people we hate. But the reality of Slicha is that the kingdom of God operates on a completely different axis. It doesn't operate on the axis of left and right. It operates on the axis of mercy and truth.
It operates on the logic of the Good Samaritan, where the person you've been taught to see as the enemy is actually your neighbor.
That's it. It highlights the massive gap between our ideology and our theology. For many of us, we let our ideology drive the bus, and we keep our theology locked in the trunk for Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
And the source makes the hard truth very plain. You cannot pray, forgive us our trespasses, while you are actively refusing to forgive those who vote differently than you. If you try, your prayer is just bouncing off the ceiling.
So practically, what does this look like? Does it mean I have to become best friends with people I fundamentally morally disagree with? Do I have to pretend their ideas aren't dangerous?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Go back to the buckets. You must grant Makila. You release the debt. You stop keeping a personal record of wrongs against them. You refuse to let bitterness and hatred rot your own soul. You treat them with the dignity that is due to an image bearer of God, even a broken one. But you don't have to reconcile. You don't have to pretend there isn't a deep disagreement. You don't have to trust them with power if you believe they are destructive. But you must love them. That part is non-negotiable.
Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. It's still the hardest command in the entire book.
It is the distinct mark of the believer. Jesus says anyone can love their friends. Even the pagans do that. What makes his followers different is slucha. It's loving the one who doesn't deserve it. That is the divine strength.
It really feels like an internal war, doesn't it? One part of me wants to be gracious and Christ-like, and the other part just wants to scream and be right.
The source actually addresses this exact internal battle in its closing notes. It uses two Hebrew terms from Jewish thought, the Rasha and the Tzaddik.
Okay, explain those for us.
They represent two internal impulses. The Yetzer Hara, or the Rasha, is the wicked inclination. It's that voice in your head that says, get revenge, or you're unlovable, or they don't deserve an ounce of mercy.
I know that voice.
We all do. And the Tzaddik is the righteous impulse. the voice of your conscience, the voice of the Spirit, nudging you toward grace.
And the enemy of our souls, the spiritual enemy, he plays both sides of that street.
He absolutely does. He wants to turn your own weakness into a vicious cycle. He wants to take that trembling we talked about earlier, that holy awe, and twist it into toxic shame. He wants you to think, I messed up so badly, I am garbage, I am unforgivable.
And regarding others.
He wants you to think they messed up so badly, so they're garbage. They're irredeemable.
So instead of that healthy trembling leading to careful walking, it leads to either paralysis for yourself or hatred for others.
Exactly. The Source has this great line. Don't let the Rasha rule over the Tzaddik. Don't let the voice of accusation drown out the reality of Slicha. The entire goal of forgiveness is restoration, not permanent shame. It's about clearing the ledger so that life, real life, can flourish again.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. I feel like my brain is full.
It's a lot to take in.
We've gone from the linguistic roots of Slicha as this rare, powerful, divine attribute. We've unpacked the 3 buckets: Mekila, wiping the ledger; Kapara, covering the consequence; and Slicha, restoring the relationship.
We've looked at the imagery of sprinkling the stain, the hard, active work of cleaning the wound, rather than just ignoring it and hoping it goes away.
We've talked about that incredible paradox of fear, how true grace produces a holy trembling that actually changes our behavior more than punishment ever could.
And we've looked at the boundaries, that crucial idea that forgiveness is not the same as enabling, that you can forgive and still separate, but also the warning. You cannot worship while holding a grudge.
And finally, that incredibly relevant political challenge, that our kingdom identity must override our partisan hatred.
It's a complete architecture. And honestly, it's exhausting just to talk about it, living it out. That's a lifetime of work.
The Source calls this the harder way. And I think that's the perfect title for it. It's easy to hold a grudge. It's easy to cancel people. It's easy to sit in our bitterness. Slicha is hard.
It is the harder way.
Yeah.
But it's the only way that leads to actual life and freedom. Forgiveness is courage. It's a courage that's rooted in trust. It's trusting that God is just, so I don't have to be the executioner. It's trusting that God restores, so I don't have to live in the wreckage forever.
So as we wrap this deep dive up, I want to leave everyone listening with the final provocative thought from the Source. It's a question we really want you to mull over, maybe on your commute home, or while you're doing the dishes tonight, or the next time you open up social media and feel your blood pressure start to spike.
The question is this: are you more comfortable being right or being reconciled?
Oof, that one lands hard.
Being right feels good. It feels safe. It gives us that little dopamine hit of superiority. But being reconciled, that feels risky. That feels vulnerable. That feels like Slicha. And that is where the divine strength is found.
That's the challenge. Thank you for diving deep with us today into the archaeology of forgiveness. We'll see you next time.